Welcome to Playing It Safe, and I'm excited that Austin agreed to come back on with me. I had to really bring him on in the fact where the last couple of weeks I know I haven't really come out with any episodes. I've been missing in action, and that's because, I'm a professor and it became finals week and a little crazy. But in that process, I had quite a few students emailing me the last week or couple days before grades. I had to submit grades, final grades, and the amount of excuses that I received or messages was just outrageous. So, I share this with Austin. He's my husband, and sometimes I just get extremely pissed off all of a sudden. Be like, "Can you believe this person just sent this?" Right? Don't worry, I don't give them names or actual information, just stories. And so it came up with this idea of talking a little bit about entitlement. So we've been talking the last couple of weeks about different stories and situations, and then I even came across a few articles that were hilarious but true and sad at the same time because the sense of entitlement. I first thought it was a generational thing, like maybe it's just a young generation, and then I realized it's across maybe all generations, just not necessarily extreme, but I really wanted to talk about this topic. So thank you, Austin, for joining me. And
No
I
problem.
know you and I share a lot of these stories that we, we come across. And so, just for example, a few things that I received as from students. I think I had about three that had messaged me. And by the way I teach my classes, I am very understanding and try to assist as much as possible. And all the time I meet with my class, I'm like, let me know if you're behind, or I contact them. Hey, I didn't see this assignment. Do you need any help? Here's some tutoring service. Here are my office hours. Let me help you. I want to make sure you pass, right? And so when it comes to last week, at that point, I mean, if you haven't done anything, you haven't done anything,
You said
right?
so well.
Yes. And so I had about three students contact me, really upset with me. Two of them had F's, one of them had a D, a low D, and they wanted me to not. They didn't even ask to turn in stuff late. They just said, "Well, I work," and obviously I didn't reply negatively or even reply. I don't even know if I did reply to some of them. And I just couldn't understand why. When I went to college, I worked at least three part-time jobs, crazy hours. Austin just finished his bachelor's last April while raising four kids pretty much by yourself. I'm sorry, I was out. No, but so the stories I tell him, he always tells me I would never dare ask my professor that, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, you would tell me a lot of like someone asking for a higher. Can you just raise my grade a couple points? Like, no, that's not how. That's not how that works. You don't. You earn the grade. You don't ask. What's a couple points? Well, that I have to do that for every student in the class then, because then it would be unfair. I would never have had the audacity to ask. Yeah, hey, can you just bump my grade up for no apparent reason? Like, no, no. If I failed, I failed. Like that at the very most, can I redo an assignment or something? Okay, then you can try your best to earn that grade, but not just have it given to you. That's baffles me.
Yeah, one student emailed me and they were down 4%. And so it was a C. So they had about 76% in class. So they said they told me in the email, it's just 4%. Can't you just raise it to a B? And mind you, anytime a student, I feel like I'm the easiest grader in the world, but anytime a student does really bad on a paper or something, in my comments, I give them time to resubmit their paper. Like I'll be like, hey, I'll give you a week. I'll give them a date, a specific date. And I said, these are the exact things you did wrong. And I know most people don't do that. Be like, you missed this, you missed that. Like, go ahead and do that. And I can, if you want full credit, return it. And I would say 99.9% don't resubmit, which is um, amazing to me. But yeah, that means I would have to go give all the students who had 66% Give them all C's. Give all students, you know, raise their C's to B's, B's to A's. I also had another student email me. This is all recent. This is just like the recent stuff. This is not like past stuff. I mean, the stories go on for days. Another student emailed me saying to raise their grade from a B to an A. Not because they deserve it, not trying to redo anything. They were a low B, but because they're trying to apply to a program that requires A's.
And you have to earn the A.
Oh man, it is crazy to me, and the reason why I wanted to bring this to an episode in this podcast was so often we hear from our friends and just random conversation from people, or just like when I'm a counselor, I hear from students, and I always hear people want their wants, wanting to pursue stuff, and I know a lot of people get really frustrated with when when we have conversations like, oh, I want to go into this field. And so when you're like, oh, that's awesome, like this is what you got to do, and this is, like if they ask, what do I got to do? I
Yeah.
don't offer advice because most times people don't want it, so I just stay quiet and listen, right? Counselor, you just listen, and but most people don't want to do the work first of all, and they don't want to start off at the worst
At the
of the
bottom.
worst, yeah, at the bottom,
You
right?
start off in the mailroom type thing.
Yeah, people want to start off as the CEO of the company. They don't want to start off in the
Oh, but I
middle.
just went to school for 4 years. I should start like somewhere towards the top. Like, no, it's not. You still have to start at the bottom. The
Or
guy
I'm
who,
older and I should start off, here,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't want my boss to be younger than me, and the excuses go on. And so I just find that's very hard to fathom, people's perspective on that. And so when we started talking more about it, found some funny articles about, like, you hear that term, beggars can't be choosy. And then they had, it was on the Reddit. Is it?
Yeah, it was on Reddit. Yeah.
I'm terrible with names, so Austin knows I get everything wrong, including the name of my podcast. Uh, and so it was an article. It had like 30 examples of people
It's
that's
like choosy beggars or something
choosy
like that.
beggars, yeah. And so it was just funny because people are trying to get more, like if I go on Facebook Marketplace sometimes and I offer up stuff for free. I don't like to charge people because I don't want to deal with negotiations, and you know what, you're gonna do me a favor by getting out of my house. But I've experienced some people just being a little bit demanding, to respond to them. And in this article, it showed a lot of people trying to get extras. Well, like, I drove out here. Can I get something else with this free item you're offering me?
It's like it's free. Oh yeah, it was. Can I'm driving from far away. Can you throw in something else to make it worth the drive? I'm like, it's a free item, sir. You can't try and ask me to sweeten the deal. It's already free.
Or there was a table full of food,
Hmm.
and so they had like wipes and like flour and just cereal, like just a bunch of different random
Right,
items,
yeah,
right?
random items to help. Like, hey, come if you're in need. We have all this extra stuff. You can come pick some stuff up.
Yeah, or and someone responded that they couldn't believe there wasn't sugar being offered at the table that was free. Or there was an individual selling a electric chair, like a wheelchair, at a discounted price, and the individual that was responding to purchase it wanted it pretty much next to nothing. And so the person selling it responded, I can't, I have to be firm on this price. We spent a lot of money on this. This hasn't really been used, and we really need to pay off this the wheelchair, you would say. And so the seller offered even information about a wonderful charity that assists, because the buyer was trying to give him a pity story, and the buyer responded in a very rude way, saying that they don't want charity.
I don't want any charity. I just want you to sell me this $1,200 item for $500.
Yeah, it's like more like
Oh
$50.
yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
right. It was a 1,200 thing you wanted for $50. It's like, and that was already half off what the original person
it was only
that
like
was
a few
back then.
months
Yeah,
old.
it's
Yeah.
confusing.
And so I hear those stories all the time. And then we came into this conversation, and I'm not trying to offend anybody at all. but I really don't care. You know, with this whole pandemic that we've been into, unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and a few people that I know that have been suffering from that have literally been working their ass off trying to recover. You know, taking whatever they can and hustling and bustling. You know, that's what you do. You. Unfortunately, if you put it, I feel bad for anyone that was put in this situation, but a few individuals that I know, just took anything they could to get where they can. And the government, started talking about. Austin's looking at me like, "Don't do it." No, the government started assisting with stimulus packages, and I think it's wonderful that they came in and helped out because there was a lot of families that needed help with just food and in general and stuff like that. And I don't disagree with that. I think that's awesome. The part that frustrates me is right now we have a lot of jobs that are available and people are not wanting to go back. And the reason a lot of individuals are not wanting to go back is they're saying that they're afraid of the virus. Okay. Now, what upsets me about the individuals that are saying these things, and I won't name names ever. I don't know any of them personally. No, I'm just kidding. But the fact that, we see your ass on social media out traveling. If you were really afraid, you'd be locked up in your house still if you were that afraid, And I got to be honest, and I don't mean to get real with everybody, but as working at a college, the pandemic's never scared me. What scares me is guns. I've been fearful of that for a while. So I'm more afraid of some crazy ass shooter coming on campus than me getting sick, especially because of the protocols they have in place. You know, a lot of times we're having to be more cautious in front of people. And then if we're at home and someone comes to visit, we're not really telling your friends, hey, leave your mask on. We're leaving our mask on. I don't want to get sick. So I bring that scenario up because there's some people that just like, well, no, it's the government's job to keep helping us with this. And again, I say that it is great that they did come in and help out, probably a little late, but helped out individuals with that. But we got. I only bring that scenario up because there's so many times where people are just making excuses to not start, to not succeed, and kind of wants others to, support them. One of my other stories that I have about a student, it was in a class I was teaching. It wasn't about the student asking for a grade. In one of my classes, the students have to pick a topic that they have to stay with for the whole semester. And one of the older students, because we have a lot of returning students, she wrote about entitled people.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. So she's like, yeah, so I interviewed somebody, and the thing is, a part of their assignment is to interview people, but I make them interview classmates within the classroom. So I knew she was talking about somebody in that class. She's like, yeah, so I interviewed a 22-year-old male, and he believes that your parents are always responsible for paying for everything for you, regardless of your age, because they had you. And their example they gave is, well, when you get dogs, you take care of them for life. And so, so I was trying not to laugh. I'm like, is this student comparing themselves to a dog? Maybe they are, but just that entitlement. Sorry, at 22, still thinking that um, blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. But anyways, no, really, yeah, I remember you told me that story, and I was dumbfounded, like that someone would believe that their parents should be responsible for them, forever. That is crazy. But just to kind of go back to what we were talking about before, with the checks and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, you're right that it was late. It was definitely a good thing that should have happened, but unfortunately now it is encouraging some people not to go back and making excuses like they're afraid of the virus, which I get that like a few months ago, but now there's a vaccine that, all right, if you're afraid now, get the vaccine, now go back to work, or if you don't want the vaccine, then go back to work without, like that. You just make the choice, but everyone's got to go back to work. That's doesn't make sense to just use that as an excuse forever. Like when does it stop? you know, it basically just when the check stops when people will change their mind or, so
Yeah, and it's a tricky subject because if we really talk about how we really feel, um, people get really upset about it. And I'm not trying to argue with anybody, and we don't try to argue with anybody. And that's why usually we just mind our own damn business, right? We don't say much. But it's just been really frustrating to have conversations. I mean, just in general, conversations with individuals that, you know, continue to talk about the same thing we've been talking about for over a year now and still are making no progress. I used to have a term. Remember, I worked at almost like a call center. It
mm,
was an educational place. I don't want to say the name, but it was like a call center, right? It was a really shitty job. I mean, it actually paid pretty well, but it was terrible. Like none of us were happy that worked there. And honestly, we all went to happy hour every freaking day, okay? And this is before children. But the rule was you can't complain about your job unless you're trying to get a new one. That is the rule. You can't say the same
mm,
complaints every time if you're not doing anything to, try to better yourself. Because even though we were all working there, all of us during the day, because it's a call center, we're on the phone, but we're also on the computer. And all of us are trying to send each other jobs like, hey, I found this. Let me apply for this. And so we were trying to better ourselves because we knew we hated that situation, but we were still trying to find a job that wasn't the call center to better ourselves. So that was the rule. You're not allowed to complain at happy hour if you're not applying yourself to get something different. So I I bring this up in the fact where it's if you're wanting to find something different, which a lot of people are. Unfortunately, a lot of people had really awesome things going on, and then it just kind of got um, you know, changed with this whole thing. But it's like, what can you do to get back on that path and keep that motivation going without, figuring that someone should take care of you somehow. Just like you had to do, right? You had plans and it kind of changed a little bit different when okay, I'm going to train people, but originally we couldn't let anyone in the house because
yeah,
you're not supposed to.
train people on Zoom and stuff like that, which was strange, but yeah. And then eventually just being more comfortable and just like, all right, people are gonna wear masks. We'll be careful, distance each other. Garage is open, so yeah, just you just gotta figure out a way to make it work, you know. So
Definitely. So for those and most people that are entitled don't know they're entitled. So if you're listening to a podcast and you're like, man, I can't stand those people, you might be one of them. But but know that it's okay. We have that fear, and maybe sometimes people come off as entitled, but they're really not. They're just they like the help, and now that fear of really of failing kicks in, and so then they just make the excuses and just want to continue to be helped out to not have to face those fears, because that fear of failure is just, and we've talked about this numerous times, is just very overpowering. So I bring this up. I didn't want to make it a long one, but I brought it up because it's been pissing me off with all the crazy emails I've been getting. Not many. Most of my students understand that I have a very high success pass rate, um, but I just couldn't understand it. And the last one I will leave you with before we go, even as I started summer school, so that's why I've been extra busy as well. I just started teaching 4 classes, so I'm online all day long. Fun times. Uh, I had a student state that they didn't realize that I had, an attendance policy because I teach my classes online as if they were in person until this campus opens back up. And so the student replied back in an email, well, I didn't know that, and I have to work. So I know that you're an amazing, understanding professor. So I know that you would understand that I can't make class. So I replied back, there's other sections that are open that are fully online. Enjoy, have a good summer. Um, but it just continues to go on this entitlement. And I usually get this in the beginning of the semester and the end of each semester. And it drives me insane. And I don't flip out in front of people because I'm a professional. I flip out at home behind doors, and that's why my husband has to hear about all this. But just, I bring this up. If you've been hearing, a lot of you been, or like, yeah, I've been hearing this a lot. A lot of individuals been saying this. Just know it's okay. It's okay to stop that, and it's okay to start over and just to try things. So, if you have any questions or you just want to chat, hit us up on playing it safe 000 at gmail.com. Like or subscribe, and you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and all the other stuff I can't pronounce that I'm still learning. Any last words, Austin?
No, I'm good. I don't know if you should air this. No, I'm just playing.
Austin gives me these weird looks. So probably if you're watching our live video, he's been rolling his eyes at me most of the time and looking at me really. I embarrass him most of the time, but it's okay. He loves crazy wife, crazy life. All right, y'all. Peace out.